Happiness and success are largely thought of as being correlated things, but they're just not. And of the two, happiness is way more important. Now, it's kind of difficult to talk about either of these because both of them are just so vague. Both of these terms are just so vague. Happiness is something that needs to be defined for yourself, and you also need to reach out and take it for yourself. It's not something that can ever be given to you. Like, you might think that, okay, I'll be happy if I can get married and start a family and have a bunch of kids. Like, just hypothetically, you may think that. I certainly wouldn't be happy in that situation, though. And maybe you'll achieve your dream and you'll be happy, and that's good. That's good for you. But it wouldn't work for me, and it wouldn't work for a lot of others. And success is kind of similar. Like, what do you mean by success? Like, a lot of people are going to think like, okay, how do you want to do in your career and how much money you want to make? But there's other ways of looking at it. And some people say they would define success as running their own business, owning their own business, being their own boss, etc. And okay, sure, that sounds great. I mean, I've had a YouTube channel since 2017, which I've enjoyed running that. I've enjoyed making money from it. I've enjoyed being my own boss, but I don't know if I would want that as my sole job. A lot of people would define success monetarily as just being comfortable, being able to like go on vacation and not have to scrounge and save all the time, and being able to, retire comfortably. Like, I think a lot of people would define that as success, but other people would only be okay with it and only consider it successful if they made over $1 million a year and they had an actual mansion and a sports car and shit. And neither of these people are wrong. Like, none of these people are wrong. Like, you have to define for yourself what happiness is and what success is. But no matter what, no matter how successful you are, it is going to be separate from being happy. And if you think that being successful, whatever success means to you, means that you're going to be happy, then that's just not going to happen. Having a lot of money, sure, that can help, but the phrase money doesn't buy happiness, that exists for a reason. A lot of rich people are fucking miserable. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, and he pretends to be good at video games so that teenagers will like him. That's a thing. That's a thing he does. If you haven't heard of that, like, he's been caught red-handed pretending to be good at Path of Exile. Like, he very clearly just had somebody else level up a character for him, and then he tries playing it, and he's very bad at it. And from what I understand, some other people are going into his past claims about this sort of thing to show that, yeah, he's really not good at video games. And you just have to wonder, how pathetic do you have to be to do that? Like, you have more money than God, dude. Why do you care? It's because he has a hole inside him that money isn't going to fill, and he thinks he can fill it by making people like him. And that's also probably why he's having so many freaking kids, because he thinks, okay, if I have enough, eventually one of them will like me when they grow up, because his only kid that's actually old enough to really think for herself very publicly hates his guts. And no matter how much money or power he accumulates, that hole inside him is never going to be filled, because he went for success before he went for happiness. Like, another example of this sort of phenomenon is from Back to the Future. Amazing movie. You should go watch it if you haven't. But basically, if you look in the original timeline that Marty McFly is from, his family is pretty dysfunctional. Like, all his older siblings are adults and they still live at home, which was a lot more unusual in the 80s than it is today. His mom is an alcoholic. His dad is a total pushover who's still being bullied by a guy he went to high school with. Like, it's not a great situation. But throughout the course of the movie, he goes back in time, he shows his dad how to stand up for himself, and then that changes the future. So once they go back to 1985, Marty's family is much nicer. The house they live in is much nicer. His dad is a successful author. He's no longer being bullied. His mom has a lot better feelings for his dad, I suppose you'd say, because he learned to stand up for himself. George McFly learned to stand up for himself, and he learned to be confident. So he was able to send out his writing and let other people check it out, because it doesn't really matter if it gets rejected. And because of that, he became a successful author. Because he stood up for himself, Biff is no longer bullying him. He's bullying Biff now, kind of. And his wife, Lorraine, no longer just feels sorry for him and sees him as like a lost puppy dog, as she described at the beginning of the movie. She sees him as someone who's worthy of her love. And because of that, like, because they were happier, because George McFly worked on himself and actually got his shit together, he achieved success because of that. all that success is a byproduct of his happiness and him having himself together. And you got to think, like, okay, maybe an alternate version of this, like, he was still writing books and everything. They didn't sell as well, so he wasn't living as nicely, but he would still be much happier than he was before. He'd still have a better relationship with his wife and his kids, and he would generally think better of himself. So while it may sound strange, I don't think you should really focus on trying to be successful in whatever it is you're doing, whether, again, that be trying to start your own business, trying to become an author, trying to become a musician, whatever. I don't think you should focus on that so much without realizing what would make you happy. You know, you should really stop and wonder, okay, what do I want from life? What do I want to be happy about? Or excuse me, what would make me happy? And then you pursue that. And success can be tied in with that. They aren't totally separate things, but they are, by and large, very separate things. And you should never, like, throw away your personal relationships while you're pursuing your career, because, well, that's just going to leave you miserable and lonely at the end of it. I think, and I've thought for a long time, that I could change some ways or some things about the way I run my main YouTube channel, and I could probably make a lot more money from that. I could probably have a bigger audience from that. And if I did that for a while, maybe I could quit my day job. Maybe I could just do YouTube full time. But I just don't really want to, because doing YouTube the way I do it, sure, it's stressful and difficult sometimes, but overall, I do really enjoy it. It makes me happy. And if I start changing that too much, then sure, I'll achieve monetary success, but ultimately, I will be more upset and, I don't know if lonelier is the right word, but I will be unfulfilled by the work I'm doing. Whereas right now, the work itself is fulfilling, and I make some money from it, and I have a day job which allows me to, you know, actually buy food and pay rent and everything. And just, I don't know, it's so much better for me this way, I think, than if I just tried really hard to focus only on YouTube. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Happiness comes before success. Work on yourself and decide what happiness even means before you go out and try to achieve it, and then go and try and achieve it. And once you get that, success will follow on its own, usually. Goodbye.